Nobody be like woman. I am absolutely loving this jam right now by See Me, and I just decided to use it as my intro for today. If you haven't listened to it, you should watch it. I basically loved the concept before she rolled out this song. It kind of allowed women to speak up about the many projections and judgments that they have had to live with as a result of just being born women. And of course, you know that on this podcast we talk about domestic abuse, we talk about the things that go wrong in the lives of women, because I am a woman too. And you hear so many things, like, especially for victims of domestic abuse and survivors, you hear things like, oh, you must be sleeping around, oh, you must have done something, oh, they are not taking care of the kids because you have refused to go back home. Nobody wants to stand firm and call out the abuser for what they are doing wrong. Just because you are a woman, something must be wrong with your reasoning, and something must be wrong with the idea that you don't want to be in a relationship that puts you down, that disrespects you, that dishonors you, that constantly just takes a go at you. So I'm going to keep on playing the song because one of my favorite lines should come about now. So let's listen to it again and see where you know, it kind of, oh, it's gone back to the original. Wait
Woman don't suffer. You should not get him off a side. Put a cushion on a side. And eventually, oh, then go suffer, woman.
I never thought of anything. Hey. Let's go. Shall we get assignments? I love this part. Social submission. Should we get assignments? You know, like, is it an assignment? Is it a task? Like I always say in my episodes, love requires both of us to submit to each other. Love requires both of us to respect each other. Love requires both of us to honor each other. Love requires both of us to love each other. You know, it's not the duty of one person. One human cannot carry the relationship on their shoulders and try as much as possible to do everything in their flaws and in their perfections and everything to keep the relationship going. One person decides that I'm going to be a tout in this relationship. At some point, the healthy partner will break down. And so today, I want to talk about why abuse thrives in silence. Why abuse thrives in silence. This week, there has been so much death at the hands of abusers globally. I mean, I read the story of a woman who was killed in India by her spouse because he wanted his dowry. And you know what he did? He put a viper in her bed as she slept. The viper bit her. She was poisoned. The poisonous serum went into her, but she didn't die. And then 2 weeks later, as she was recuperating from the venom that was in her, this guy went to get a king cobra and put it in the bed so that it will bite his wife. I mean, if you don't want her, take her back. Must you kill her? And that's the thing. Abusers will control every aspect of your life until they can't they get to the point where they feel like they have to push you under the water. And I think I've used this analogy of, when victims are coming up for air and they are drowning in the abuse that is pushing them down. Like they are under the water and they are raising their hands and they're saying, help me, I'm drowning. And they come and they are talking about their experience, and someone is telling them, oh, you must have done something wrong. Go back into the water. Go back into, hold your nose more. Like, keep your head down. That's exactly what happens when people tell you to go back into a situation that is taking away from you. First of all, abuse is a sin. Let's call it out as it is. It's not about the separation. It's not about the divorce. I mean, what the person is doing is inhumane. It's not love. It's so damaging to the other the person going through it, to the victim. So why would you allow them go through it? Because what? Marriage is the ultimate? It isn't. Heaven is the goal, like we always say. So like I say, globally there's been so many deaths, and in Ghana I've heard 2 cases where a man stabbed his pregnant wife to death and another man killed his wife in the Volta region. It doesn't make sense. How angry can you get to the extent that you will hurt someone you claim you love so badly that in your anger you can't see past the fact that you're killing and hurting the person you say you love? I always say that anger is an emotion that we feel, and there's healthy anger that causes you to do and say the things that you need to say at a certain point in time. But anger that manifests in such a manner that you don't listen, all you're bent on doing is revenging, harming the person, that's not a good type of anger. That is anger that is full of rage and stupidity. So you will do stupid things, and when you do stupid things, you've got to deal with the consequences. So it's as simple as that for me. And so I say that let us not let abuse thrive in the silence that it is, because it becomes a problem for every one of us. 1 out of 3 females worldwide will be physically, sexually, emotionally, spiritually, or verbally abused during their lifetime, with intimate violence as the most common form of violence that they will come across in their lives. There's a summary report of Institute of Development Studies on domestic abuse in Ghana. It was done in 2015 leading to 2016, but I mean it's one of the most recent reports that we have on domestic abuse and the numbers and the figures in Ghana, and it's titled Domestic Violence in Ghana: Incidents, Attitude, Determinants, and Consequences. It noted the effects. So it talks about a lot of things. It talks about numbers. It talks about the effects. So I am more concerned about the effects, because one person is going through abuse is even not good enough. So whatever the figures are, I have to let you know that it is problematic already. However, it noted that the effects of and the consequences of abuse included physical injuries in terms of short term, like you can see that physical injuries, mental health problems, poor well-being, because of course if someone is abusing you will suffer. It's like it can be mentally, it can be physically, it can be spiritually, you will suffer financially in so many other ways. And then the long-term consequences included things like death, of course. Like I said, people died this week from domestic abuse, poor physical and mental health, higher risk of contracting HIV, especially for the people that had adultery also as a problem, and sexually transmitted diseases, and restricted access to work, finances, and education, because of course the victim had to be controlled one way or the other. So it's either they felt like if they had access to education, they will become a lot more awake to the things that were going on. If they had access to work or finances, they will be able to leave the situation. And so the perpetrator ensures that there's some kind of roadblock or a bump or a mountain that you can scale, so that they will have you in the position where they need you to be subjected to their abuse, right? Sounds ridiculous, but that's how it is. The reason why we cannot be silent is that it leads to life-changing consequences, and gender inequalities become entrenched. People will say things like, "Oh, obi fi asem, obi ne ne yere asem, aware mu nsem." So many things that they say because they don't want to be the ones to say to the person that, you know what, you're really being stupid right now, and this has got to stop. And your wife has every reason to want to go. They just want to avoid explicitly calling out the injustice of the abuse. So the very people who should be in the forefront of defending the victims are the ones that are helping the perpetrator continue to abuse them. And typically, I speak for women. Women have been taught at a very young age to be responsible for men's behavior. Cover yourself up. Don't walk alone at night. Don't talk to a man. Don't befriend men. Don't do this, that. Don't do that. This is where victim blaming and shaming begins. It's like you've got to be responsible for yourself, and the mindset of a man who's been raised to think that, of course, they're a woman, you can have it all when it comes to women. It doesn't work like that. Everyone is human, made in the image of God, created to live, thrive, excel, and do well, and take dominion over the earth. And so when that happens and you come and you want to put them in a place of subjugation just because you feel like you can, you're absolutely out of line. Completely out of line. So in fact, there are so many things that, why did she go back? Why was she dressed like that? Her mother should have taught her better. All kinds of things. And it's funny how we seem to think that the more as a woman you can endure, then it means you have been faithful, or the more suffering you can carry and bear on your shoulders. Like, you've got to wear the badge of suffering with honor, with pride, that I've suffered so much in my marriage that, God has rewarded you now. The husband has become wealthy. You live in a house. Meanwhile, there could be financial abuse going on. So many other forms of abuse going on. A lot of women don't have the courage to say, you know what, fuck this. Literally, like, I'm done, because the very society that ought to protect you will spit you out, chew you raw, spit you out like, phew. Society has taught us that marriage is the woman's responsibility to keep obadie on a curfew. Typically here in Ghana, they tell you things like, oh, you're gonna get married, pour water in your mouth anytime your husband doesn't say something, doesn't do something. I want you to understand that healthy relationships will entertain difficult topics or difficult conversations. Healthy relationships will have difficult conversations. Any relationships that can have difficult conversations when it comes to treatment, when it comes to feelings, when it comes to emotions, when it comes to perceptions, when it comes to ideas and thoughts of each other, which do not augur well for the well-being of the humans in the relationship, there is a major red flag and there is a problem. Because if I am to do this journey of life with you, and I feel like at this point you have something, or I have something that is making it extremely difficult for us to be in sync, in harmony, and ensuring that we have a healthy way of communicating and understanding each other, it will not work. It is a problem. It will not work. So they literally, make you vulnerable to abuse, because you already have the idea that you're supposed to be silent, you're supposed to be quiet, you're supposed to be one to enjoy, you're supposed to be the one to pray and keep the relationship. You're supposed to be try more because you don't want to be labeled as a failure. I don't like, oh, they have a failed marriage, or they whatever, and so you want the person to die in the marriage before you realize that something untoward is happening. I don't even understand it. Society, speak up about the abuse. It's not right. We will speak up for you. Society, look, I'm being abused. Oh, such a charming gentleman. Are you sure? Isn't that so? Did you do anything? Oh, go back into the abuse and pray for him. Maybe that's why God gave you to the person. Go back into the abuse and be quiet more and do what they want and serve them. Be submissive. Be more submissive. They will change. The more submissive you are, they will change. You go back there, you are even more submissive. Like lay on the floor, flat rag, walk over you, everything. And the abuse just gets worse because they have the audacity and backing of society behind them. It is what it is. Like some people say, pray and wait for him to change. Up until when? And you spend years praying for an abusive, an adulterous, a promiscuous spouse. Like, what is it teaching your children, be it boys or girls? And like I always say, instead of stay for the children, leave for the children. Be a cycle breaker, because whatever you accept and normalize is what they will grow to. Let them know that they have alternatives. Abuse is not a difficult marriage. Let's not make abuse about a difficult marriage. I always keep saying there's a difference between a difficult marriage and there's a difference between what abuse is. And so there's a difference between things that can be resolved and things that cannot be resolved under any circumstances, because one person has decided to be a tout. Using shame and guilt to pin spouses down. So they use money, children's education, sex, anything that they can use as a way to put you under control, they will do it. So sometimes you've got to walk so that your children will know that this is not what it should be, right? This is not what it should be. But it so happens that typically victims are just put through a whole slew of accepting what the status quo is. Now, why you shouldn't be silent and why advocacy is important is that a lot of domestic violence thrives under the radar of silence, because you've already been told, don't pour water in your mouth, don't say anything, be submissive, don't discuss your marriage problems with a third person, and all of that. Now, abusers know all of these things, so they are counting on your silence. They are counting on the charm that they show outside. They are counting on the facade of a caring human being that they show to the public. So the longer you are quiet, and if you are a neighbor, a brother, a sister, a family member, mother, parent, pastor, elder deacon, counselor, whoever, and an issue of abuse comes to you, and you don't listen, but you give the superficial answers and say that, oh, why are you saying this, or why aren't you praying more? My darling, you are just sending the victim back to be abused. You are sending the victim back to be abused further, because that is what it is. Not talking about abuse even makes it worse, because it's what the victim, the perpetrator needs, so that they can smear the victim, push something on the victim, and say that, oh, you know what, they must have done something wrong. that is why the abuse occurred, and typically victims don't say they are being abused for a long time till they are afraid. So when you speak up about abuse, it's becomes an option. People will judge you. Your victim will lie and say, "Oh, it's not true." And it's funny why you'll come and say, "You know what, I'm being abused," and the victim says, and you give evidence of every incident that people are outrageously enraged about, and the victim has to come and say, "Oh, they are lying, and they are lying because I saw them, and they I think they are cheating and whatnot." And then immediately everyone is like, "Oh, are you sure you're not doing something to get abused?" Like, what? Really? That's your answer to the abuse? It's crazy. It's absolutely ridiculous. So women go through so much. Women have to deal with all manner and shapes and kinds of ridiculous answers. And the point is, domestic violence thrives in silence. No matter what you do, domestic violence thrives in silence. You know the perpetrators. They are in church with you. They are at work with you. They are your friends. They are your family members. They are your children. They are your cousins. They are your nephews. They are your sons' brothers. But because you don't want to call them out, or perhaps you don't even like the spouse anyway, so all the better for you, you deliberately ignore everything that the spouse is saying, and you jump and of course go ahead to smear the name. And what those flying monkeys who coming in the name of friendship, if you are dilly-dallying with my abuser, you're not in my corner. Like, you can't ask me to be comfortable around you if you're still busy being besties with an abuser. That's not to say, "Oh, don't talk to them," but at the end of the day, you are giving them more reason to say they didn't do it. But that doesn't help the victim. Nobody wants to speak up for the victim. Everybody wants to say, "Oh, why are you leaving the marriage?" Not, "Why are you abusing her? Why are you doing that to her? Is that what she signed up for as love? It's so unfair. You shouldn't be doing that." But no, they will choose the other pattern. So women, we are strong. We have so much to deal with and all of that. It's amazing that we're able to go through all of this and then still raise our children in ways that's, kind of ensure that we're able to raise them. It's just crazy. So I will always say that abuse thrives in silence. You know the signs. You know the truth. You've heard it being said several times. Open your eyes. There's this issue of Gabby Petito murdered by her boyfriend, and she was crying and wailing, and the victim was calm, and she was just trying. You could see the distraughteness, but because people are not trained, and every time the woman is at fault, this woman lost her life. Look at Agnes Tirop in Kenya. Look at the Indian woman I told you about. So many women who are going through domestic abuse because their abusers feel like they can, and they are operating under the cover of silence, because victims learn not to say anything because they don't want to aggravate the situation. They just want peace of mind. But the abuser will tell all manner of lies and, descend into the abyss of hell about the victim's character, yet still say, oh, but I would like for you to tell them to come back. If they are such a terrible person, why are you asking for them to come back? Why? And you don't even want to take responsibility for your actions or behavior. So what is the point? Abusers need your silence to thrive if you're a victim. Abusers need the silence of the church. Abusers need the silence of their counselors. Abusers need the silence of their family. Abusers need the silence of friends. Abusers need the silence of society. All they need is silence to thrive. So, in this month of domestic abuse, stand up, survivor. Stand up, victim. Stand up, friends of survivors. Stand up, friends of victims. Stand up, church members and pastors and clergy of victims. Stand up, leadership of victims in the church. Stand up for them, because if you do not make sure that your voice is loud, then the silence will let the abuse thrive. Nobody be like woman. Nobody be strong like woman, because that's it. I mean, look, all that woman endures is to suffer. So don't let your silence make another woman suffer. Abuse thrives in silence. Don't be silent. Let your voice be loud this month of domestic abuse awareness and the coming month. As usual, I want to say thank you for hanging with me. Thank you for chilling with me. I love you so much. This has been Conversations with Amma. Share, listen, press play, and come back next week for more conversations. Good night.